Alrighty, so this is like last week, and this video will go over my sample code, just my submitted code here. And by the way, I'm recording this on Monday. I like to read code. Reading code is a really good thing to do. Okay, so it seems like most of you have also gotten this link to be able to just cut and paste this link in here. Remember, for Learn Together, just give us the link to the files. It's only on the code long that I want that for the commits. Okay, so let me just move over to VS Code real quick. And so here is my week 3 file. Let me just roll everything else up so it's all we're looking at. And in here, so the one, kind of not solid requirements, but more vague of what I wanted to accomplish, I wrote, and I'm not totally happy with my algorithm here, my calculation, but for the most part it works. And so I set up a function, time to charge. As you can probably see, I have a new electric car in my life, so this is some of my focus. I've set up a default parameter if nothing is passed, which I do, in this case test, and this is part of what you heard me talk about in week 3 attendance, is make sure you run your functions in this case, but in general your code, right, enough time to test to make sure all of your branches work, and with just different values. So then all I did, once I set up my defaults, was I said, okay, if they don't pass anything, assume we're charging at 2 kilowatts and it's 50% full. And then I defined the second variable, which just took whatever the result of this, because see, there's a return value here. And the return value is what stores or creates this global variable, in this case called charge time, because I'm calling time to charge, passing in kilowatts and percent of full. So once I return that value, I just print it out just so I could look at it. And then I just ran the second function, which was setting again a default variable, but determining next steps, right? So if you're in the electric car game, what you do is you figure out, am I getting enough kilowatts for this charging station? If not, maybe I need more kilowatts, or now this will work okay. So it was a simple logic that I did there. But the idea of what I wanted you to get, in addition to just writing some code that helps you understand this idea of arguments and parameters, right, is also to get the idea of returning a value that you then use in another function call. Okay. And that's just one of those things that I think once you get, but you have to allow yourself enough time to do it. And so in order to make sure those default values set up, right, is I just ran it without any parameters, any arguments, so that those default parameters would hit. Okay, I think the only other thing would be my Fizzbuzz. Very simple Fizzbuzz. I wrote this on my own. Again, remember, if you look at somebody else's code, it is your job to reference where you got that code at. So in this case, I just called, now I'm calling the function Fizzbuzz, right? And whatever's going to come back will be printed. And that's why you see this. Remember, wherever you open your parentheses, you're invoking something, but you can, inside that actually invoke something else. So, and the reason I know I can do this is I'm returning a value. So I get user input, which I like to have in a separate function, right? So I'm passing it, I'm calling this get user function. I'm passing in the message I want from the user. I then pass this string as argument, becomes the parameter, and then user int. So I'm defining a local variable here. I'm calling input and whatever that message is, and that gets stored, and then I just convert it to int and return, which means that that value is now expressed in that local scope here. So when you're writing Fizzbuzz, the one thing you have to do, and this is why running it multiple times Now, in this case, because we're running the user input, you just want to make sure you're running this multiple times to see the user output, but also to test the different branches of your code. One of the things most people run into if you've never written this is just to write the if statements in a way that makes sure it hits all the logic points that you're looking for. And after you've done it, you typically find out that you need to actually test for this 5. Is it divided by, can it be divided by 5, and can it be divided by 3? Because if you hit one of these points by 3 or 5, remember your return value is going to return it to whatever called it. So it won't hit, right? It won't hit this one. You get that? Okay, so again, if this one is higher up in, like if this one was first, if you did the test for is modulus 3 equal to 0, well, what if it was also equal to 5? Then you would want Fizzbuzz. So this is really understanding what happens in writing if statements, or if I'm not writing else here. Well, I am writing else because I just else return the value. But understanding when you're writing code how it flows through there. And then I just print that out. Okay. Why did I have prime IO in here? I didn't have you guys do that. Not sure why I had that in there. The thing I will show you for those of you is most of you got this on the cut and paste. And this is referring back to the code together this week. As I said, write some code that utilizes that paper clip. And I know some of you had a little bit of a problem because of the pip issue, right? So if you're doing, remember I have to do pip 3. Now again, I could fix my, oh, that's actually dash dash. So it's actually dash dash. So in that case, I could fix my local system in something called a bash file to actually say whenever I run pip, really run pip 3. So that seemed to be one of the things that some people got, but the idea of using it, right, just importing it, and then I just wrote a function that, because I tend to do this, is like get information, right, and then from here, I just said once I get the information, I store it in the user input, then I call show paste, which is up here. I'm passing it whatever that input is, that user input, and then I pass it in here, and then I just say, okay, take that new third-party library dot, and this is, you'll learn this if you don't already, as a method that's on that library called copy. And he showed you this in the code along, right? And then whatever was passed in, then I just printed that out back out. Okay, so you didn't have to write a lot of code. It was just more using it, and something that, and the reason I did that is so that you would see the install. But again, we'll have to talk about virtual environments later. Okay, so I did this because I asked in week 3 how many of you felt that was helpful. So I went ahead and did it for this one as well. Hope this helps you understand this code. Please reach out if you want to ask me any other questions about it. Have a good one.